Konnichiwa, it's the second leg of the flyaways and welcome to Japan. We're back with episode 12 of the RNF Unlocked podcast and today's an interesting topic. 20 rounds, 17 countries. Ever wonder how a MotoGP team moves around the globe? I'm Adam Wheeler. I'm joined today with none other than Wilco Zeelenberg and RNF MotoGP Team's coordinator Carl Meakin, or just Stan. Hello guys.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
After doing a few of these podcasts where we talk to riders and try to sort of get into a certain part of the sport that maybe fans know a little bit more about, this is something that's, I think, a bit more interesting and unusual. Carl, first of all, why Stan? I mean, it's not even close. It's a bizarre nickname.
It comes from being a kid growing up. I was a big Forest fan, and one of the main players at the time was Stan Cullimore, who you know, obviously. And I kind of idolised him a bit, so everybody called me Stan. Even the teachers at school, everybody called me Stan. Not calling my mum yet, but my dad does, you know.
I even didn't know that.
I mean, being a Queen's Park Rangers fan, I know all about Nottingham Forest and the hoodoo they have over my club at their particular ground. So, yeah, we won't dwell on that too much. But listen, tell us a little bit about your story. What exactly is it you're doing with the team? How long have you been involved?
Yeah, I've been involved with RNF since the start, two years ago, kind of now. And then I did 1 year with Petronas, a little bit working with Wilco then. But started back in 1994. I was in the same class as Leon Haslam at school.
Okay.
And kind of went away with him for a weekend motocross racing. And then I ended up living at his house mostly from then until I left school in 99. And then went to 125 World Championship. The day I got the exam results, I left school and I flew to Bologna to do Misano.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then never done anything else.
I assume, with a team as big and as comprehensive as this, I mean, there's over 30 staff members. Your strengths or your abilities are mainly organisation, diplomacy, foresight, predicting some unexpected stuff.
Yeah, you can never try and predict it. Every day there's something. Every day's a school day, isn't it? You know what I mean? You learn something new, especially coming somewhere like India and last year Lombok and places like that. You don't really know what to expect, but I mean, especially.
But actually, we predicted quite well.
Yeah, it's pleasantly surprised here.
We knew to have a good hotel here, and we did. So finally we predicted, kind of, and it worked out quite well.
And we've managed, nearly a week, everybody's dodged the old Delhi belly so far. I think we've done all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, coming to Japan, at least it's a little bit more consistent, what you're in for. But like India was a period of discovery, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's, but I think pleasantly surprised. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as what everybody was predicting, you know what I mean? I'd actually say it's been quite smooth, it's been all right.
Did you, experiences in Indonesia, that was a first. That was the new track last year for MotoGP, and this was the new one this year. I mean, from your point of view, Wilco, how was India?
Yeah, I think to compare Lombok with Delhi is a bit difficult because, it's an island basically with no people around, and here it's crazy, the traffic and everything else. It's a big difference. Even track-wise, I like both. So this is important for us as motorsport fans. We arrive here, we check the track. How is it? Is the layout nice and safe, and etc. And then already it makes life a lot easier. Of course, the facilities here are good, and in Lombok actually the same. So we don't see a lot from the country. I have to say that too.
No, the bus journey is about the most entertaining part of the day. Isn't it?
Yeah, there's something enlightening every time you sort of move from from Delhi to Bud International Circuit. That's for sure.
We've never been the same way twice.
Stan, you looking after every facet of how the team moves? All the flights, hotels, absolutely everything, or is it more just the hard logistics like freight, team buses and semis?
We do obviously the general logistics, so the flights, hotels, the rental cars or shuttles as it is here, and then when we're at the circuit, more of the freight. Because we haven't just got air freight, there's sea freight and dangerous goods for the fuel and things like that. So we do all that kind of stuff as well.
The last Grand Prix before Indonesia, of course, was in Europe, was in Misano. Can you just give some people listening to this podcast some insight as to what you had to get ready, what had to go by boat and how early it had to go and everything else?
I mean, the boat stuff went from Magellan, so that was back in...
Wow. So quite a long time.
Yeah, you have to allow at least 4 to 5 months to make sure it arrives. And then, obviously, Misano was quite complicated as well because we had the test on the Monday. So the test engines and stuff like that, you don't really want to send here. So after the test, you got to make sure all the bikes have got the right engines in and all the correct engine numbers are in the right place, because if you get checked, then that's going to hold up the freight arriving on time and stuff like that.
And of course, we had 7 rounds coming up overseas, which makes it also difficult to judge what you need, because finally you don't come back to Europe. And of course, if you need extra fairings, we need to be ready and prepared to send some stuff as well. So saying that, we also had our new flight cases because of the new format basically from Dorna, that we get those 4 Q5s. So we had extra work in the summer break, or Stan actually had that, I have to say. But we are happy with the situation now. We can work quicker for ourselves as well, but also for Dorna. And we are much more on the weight limit, that we don't spend too much overweight as well.
As fast as Raul and Miguel are on the bikes, I imagine you're just as efficient with a spreadsheet, because I imagine everything must be logged.
It's true.
One thing you'll learn about the Malaysian office is that they love a spreadsheet.
But I mean,
Excel's got a lot better since I came here. Like.
I mean, we're British, and with Brexit, the extra complications. I mean, the whole carnet process of justifying what you're carrying across country borders, that must be a major headache as well.
No, carnet's not too bad because you do it once before the start of the year, and then to be honest, we have a good shipping agent who deals with that. To try and do that yourself would be nearly impossible. We do it ourselves for Silverstone. And it's all right. Now this the 3rd year we've done it, and it's quite straightforward because everybody knows what they're doing now. But the first year everybody was quite nervous about which place to go to. You know what I mean? And everybody says, "Oh, don't go here, but go there." But you just have to do your own thing and what works for you,
I mean, moving the team overseas. I know Dorna have their system, like you mentioned it, Wilco, with the freight and the setup and everything like that. Is it still quite tight to get everything packed in and organised, or is it actually a bit more fluid than people would imagine?
Each box is made for a certain thing. So you've got 2 boxes for the panels and then 1 box for this, and they're all labelled, and we have it where 2 people is responsible for each box. So they'll start packing that. And that, I think...
Yeah, it goes straight forward, actually. So there are many boxes, but not everybody is filling them up, So each one has their own responsibility, because otherwise it's a disaster. And actually, to go overseas is faster than to load the trucks, because basically all those boxes need to go in the truck, And here not. We just load the boxes and they stay behind.
I mean, one thing I noticed from walking through the paddock, and maybe fans do as well when they see the images on social media or the TV, is the impressive setup the teams have aesthetically. I mean, you look in the pit box there, everything looks nicely presented. All that stuff, I guess, packs down almost like Lego, right? I mean, it's all...
As I say, the most important thing, everything's got to have a place. It's just to stop damage, and then you don't forget anything either. If you do it the same every race in Europe or in Asia, or if you always do it the same, then you never forget anything. That's the most important thing. And obviously, the more you do it, the quicker you get, because everybody knows the system.
But it's true as well, to set up a pit box, it's all magnets, It looks like from the outside that it's all nice and packed, but it's all like click, 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 and the panels are from carbon, so very light. So one guy can set up the pit box basically, I don't know what, even if one person could do it. So that's a nice system.
Wilco, I don't want you to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, during my day," and be one of those kind of old guys. But I mean, let's talk about the comparison between your racing days and now. It seems like there's a lot more baggage around MotoGP.
Yes, there is. So, of course, with all the restrictions and the rules and the material. So, when I was riding those 250s in the 90s, I said 1 flight case, but maybe we had 2 or 3. But now we bring 30 flight cases with us, and each one has his own goal, you know. So and the weight difference is huge. So this year I think we bring nearly 10,000 kilo with us to India, and then it was maybe 1,500, 2,000 kilo, something like this, with the 250s of course, which are lighter anyway. But also we brought 2 bikes, you know.
It's kind of timely we're doing this podcast now because it is the most intense period of the season, isn't it? And hopefully next year we should see, well, the MotoGP calendar should be out, very shortly. But, is there any kind of stage of this 7 spell of overseas races that you're slightly worried about or that's slightly more concerning when it comes to things arriving on time?
The thing is, like, these 7 races was already done, like, as I say, Mugello, Sachsenring, Assen. Like, we're already thinking now mostly on Valencia and where the stuff's going from Valencia. You're not really thinking about Motegi because that's already done. Like, we had a big discussion yesterday about what's going by sea to Sepang for the first test. What's not going to Sepang but going directly to Qatar. Like, these races, we are here, but you're not really here. You're thinking about something what's way, way, way ahead.
Yeah. Are there any countries or borders from your past experience where you thought, we've had problems there in the past, I hope we get through all right?
Checo used to be a pain.
Yeah, but that's a long time.
Yeah.
No, but still Argentina, and we were not sure here, of course, also with the visa. So there are countries that they give you green light for things and it just doesn't happen. So of course we are worried, but it's for everybody a bit the same. But especially coming here, it looked like it was not for everybody, but just, some visas were just not coming. And of course also material-wise. In the past we had Brazil, you remember, with the fuel and things, But so far, I have to say, if we need to travel to Jerez, it takes longer than to go to Qatar, for example. Because Qatar is a straight flight, it's 6.5 hours, and we are quicker in Qatar than we are in Jerez, all of us. So the overseas are getting easier and easier, but of course the time difference makes it more difficult, and that's a good point from Qatar. There is no time difference, 1 hour, but here we go to Japan and Australia, and I'm a little bit worried how we are feeling in Valencia, I have to say.
We'll be quite tired, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's the human side of it. There's also the technical side of it. I mean, Wilco, you said you need to pack enough resources to get through this whole stint. But, I mean, is there a connection with base? I mean, if you need extra spares, if you need extra material, I assume this stuff can get on a plane, right?
Yeah, there's certain countries, not like Lombok. It's not so easy to send something direct to Lombok. We can, but the cost is incredible. So you do like ring certain races where you don't really want to send stuff to. So like we'll think, call it 3 races at least. So here, Japan and Lombok. But you can send stuff to Melbourne pretty easy because you can put it on a domestic flight. So if you need fairings from Aprilia or anything like that, to send them to Phillip Island's quite a simple process.
Yeah.
But trying to get them to an island in Lombok is not. And the Indonesian authorities are quite strict as well, so you do try and avoid them.
Is that also where the collaboration with Aprilia comes in, Wilco? I mean, if there is an absolute necessity for some help, then they could step in.
Well, yes, first of all, but also secondly, spare parts wise, I think both teams are able to build up 2 new bikes, so they can build up 2 new bikes. We could build up 2 new bikes, so we have quite some spare parts. So normally, we have enough with us to help each other as well. So if we need something, they can help us. And if they need something extra, we can help them. Because many parts, of course, we have 22 bike and 23, but many bolts and nuts and brackets are exchangeable. So
universal, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes, we're talking about the flyways because we're in the middle of it, but let's talk a bit about moving the team around Europe. I mean, everything's on wheels. And one aspect, I guess, setting up is a bigger job, but then maybe more simple because of the infrastructure now around, it's sort of the trucks and everything.
Yeah, it does take longer in Europe. We noticed that on Wednesday, like already lunchtime, we thought, we're done. And then, but normally in Europe, at 5 o'clock, you're still running around a little bit. You know what I mean? They're both different. Like, can you say challenges? But it's kind of in 3 sections this year, isn't it? You do the first ones, the middle sector in Europe and then the end in Asia. So, yeah, but even like after Misano, you still got to get the trucks to Valencia because we were away too long to get them there. So that was another thing we had to the guys had to do. So they only had a couple of days at home before then coming here. Like, so there is a lot happens behind the scenes that nobody really thinks about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the volume of stuff.
So some people fly to each race and then they don't really realise how it actually gets there. You know what I mean? There's quite a lot goes into it.
The truck drivers are having a difficult life, you know. They do, because many factory teams, they have their drivers just for the trucks, but actually we are in a combination. So the truck drivers normally are the tire guys. Yeah. We have one young guy, Colin and Martin. And I have to say chapeau because these boys are driving the trucks and the trailers to the track. So they're always 2-3 days more away from home than we are. So this is it's a big task.
Is there a little bit more in terms of support staff at European rounds as well compared to overseas?
Yeah, in Valencia we'll be about 49 people, 48, 49 people. But on the flyaways we're between 30 and 35. It's just more for not so much the technical side, but more the hospitality side. You don't bring nowhere near as many people to these races as you do in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, you still have the whole factor of the corporate entertainment, the guests and everything else, especially coming to Malaysia. So you can't really be too skeletal really with your setup and your presentation, can you?
No, some races you can say like bring more than others. You know what I mean? Like we know in Japan, we'll have no real guests or. So we probably are less staff in Japan than what we are in Sepang or Lombok, because Lombok is quite a lot of Indonesian guests and things like that.
Okay. Wilco, I mean, working with Aprilia this year is a change from your particular story of like Japanese to European. How is that different, especially dealing with the Asian leg of MotoGP?
Yeah, it's difficult to give a straight answer, but yeah, clearly what we see on track is basically also what we experience behind the scenes. You know, they are very interactive. So it's clearly a MotoGP development bike. You know, so many things you're like, ooh, I hope this part stays alive. You know, and with the Yamaha, basically they're much safer. So the first target is it cannot break down. And so that is, I think, also one of the reasons why they are a little bit slow in their development at the moment. And with Aprilia, everything is performance. And if something needs to be checked and prepared and the performance improves, we're going to use it. Point. And with Yamaha, it's like, let's check, double check. And then it comes back, and then everybody else has it, and you're running behind the line. And I think this is a little bit the best explanation how I experience the support and the way of and the speed of thinking of Aprilia at the moment.
I mean, talking of logistics, I mean, the Japanese, I know they have their European base, but when you were in Asia, I mean, was there more in the way of interest or support or anything else coming through?
No.
So geographically, it makes no difference?
No, make no difference, actually,
okay.
No.
But Stan, what about like the human side then? Because you must be dealing with people who are working a very intense schedule, a lot of travelling. There must be considerations coming into that, people's families, situations, as well as their professional requirements.
I mean, like we did a thing this year where on a back-to-back races, especially the triples, some people go home after the first one, some people stay, because you can't send everybody home because there's too much to do. And then the next ones, the people who didn't go home before will go home and then come back on the Wednesday. You just have to kind of, sense how the people are a little bit. You know, some people's not too bothered about going home, they'd rather just stay out. But you kind of get to know that over a period of time. It's hard to judge that in the first couple of races, but over the year you get to. And if someone is not happy, they do tell you.
That's what I'm saying. Your job must be, or you as well, Wilco. My door is always open, you know, or my phone is always on.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you have to be very sensitive to the messages or the feelings of the team.
Yeah, it's you get to know the people quite quickly because I don't know, we spend more time with some people here than you do with the people at home, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And
it's kind of in your own interest to get on as well. You know, that's quite a big thing that everybody's got to stick together.
But also the interaction that we understand that, for example, from Barcelona you fly easy direct, from Amsterdam you fly easy direct. For those boys, it's not so easy to fly direct from England. You know, there always is an early flight because you have to leave on the Tuesday, because if they leave on the Wednesday, they're late there. So you need to be flexible at some tracks where they can arrive a little bit later. So we are anticipating that, and I think that's what he means as well, to give them, they don't need to be there Tuesday evening in Silverstone, for example, or Essen, or, you know, you need to pinpoint your moments where they should be early or they can be a little bit later on track.
Do you have to cater for any strange requests from Wilco for his travel habits? Maybe he has to sit in row 11 or the window seat every time?
No, Wilco's quite easy. some of the others have got a few...
He just left the building.
As long as he's got his lie-down bed and he's not 2 stops, that's all that matters, isn't it? No. To be honest, this year's been all right. It's been quite, I don't want to jinx it, because obviously we fly to Motegi tonight, but it's been not too bad. Like, we'll keep plodding on.
What about coming to India and the visa situation? Was that a major headache for you?
No, we got lucky. I got on 1 week before. I was just missing one, which we got on the Sunday before we left. But no, we was lucky with that.
Yeah.
I know it can be a major problem and it's not particularly pleasant to deal with, but when you kind of look back on it afterwards, does it feel like, well, that was part of the story of my job, you know, it's not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, more or less the same thing. There's, you know, that kind of variety
I think that's why once you get into it, it's difficult to actually leave it, because not every day is the same. Every day is something different. And like, if you think, all right, I've not got so much on with that today, you'll go and help the guys a little bit inside, or think, what can we make better for next year, or, you know what I mean? There's no point in like sitting down and waiting for the day to go by. If we're away, we might as well
do something.
Use the time. You know what I mean?
It's also, as the season comes to an end, I guess everyone's has the same mentality. But for you, I know it's certainly the case for me, but when you get the provisional calendar, you start thinking, right, shit, Aragon's on the schedule next year. I've got to find somewhere that's not going to be an hour and a half drive every day. I guess as soon as you get a sniff of the dates, you're going to have to think already about 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, as I say, 2024 is always, probably after the summer break is the main thinking about that.
But saying that, of course, then it's important to have an agency behind, like Tours or Fast or one of those boys that already is planning and booking for you as well, because we're not booking directly ourselves everything. They are a big support. They know what we want, and as soon as the calendar is coming out, they already have their
allocation.
Yeah, exactly.
To try and find 30 rooms a weekend for somebody like us without having an agency behind you is impossible. You know what I mean? You'd be an hour away every weekend at least. Like, so you have to. Well, they do a good job, and you have to trust them to say, right, this is what we want.
So it's not directly your fault when I'm trying to find accommodation and there's nothing left.
No.
Right, okay. We can continue the podcast now. Listen, I'm going to ask both of you. I'm putting you on the spot. Tell me a good sort of travel story, you know, and maybe not from this year, but, you know, the last couple of years where you thought, well, I'm actually in the paddock. Maybe you walked in and kissed the floor like I actually made it here. I mean, was there something?
So we say the Lombok story from Stuart on the back of the scooter.
Yes. Oh, yes. And trolley in Qatar.
Oh, trolley in Qatar. You can tell that one.
Well, as you know, the last time we went to Qatar for the 2 races in COVID, and we had an incident where one guy was potentially positive. We'd heard a few stories about the accommodation in Qatar for the positive people wasn't ideal. So 15 minutes later, he was in a taxi on the way to the airport with a Turkish Airlines ticket in his hand and a PDF edited COVID test to get home. You know? The next morning, they was looking for him, and I said he's already in Amsterdam.
A narrow escape then.
Yeah, maybe skip that one, telling your colleagues that one in Dorna, by the way. She wasn't overly impressed with that idea.
Well, I mean, you're trying to move a world championship around various countries. I mean, it was very difficult at the time.
There's a long story behind that one because the individual involved had a bad time in the Sepang test with COVID tests and things like that. So, as going back to your point of looking after people as well, that was one thing we had to do. You know what I mean? It wasn't at the time. It wasn't a laughing matter. You know, it was that's what we've got to do. You know what I mean?
What about I know. The theme of sustainability, you know, trying to be efficient, you know, moving a whole MotoGP team around the world. Does that come into the planning at all, or is there a discussion about it? Do you guys try to make any effort where you can?
Yeah, it's not easy. They do like they're trying to bring that kind of thing into it, and they're saying, "I would prefer you to use X mode of transport or this mode of transport or less cars or bigger buses." And it's not easy though, you know what I mean? Everybody's mentality has got to change, we all understand that, but to do it overnight is not a simple process, you know. We've got to bear it in the back of your mind and think, right, okay, we'll reduce 2 cars this year, for example, at each race. But to get the guys on board to do that, because everybody's got to leave at different times, everybody's got to do, like in the morning, nobody wants to come early, but we have to come early, so you just have to.
Yeah, the intention is there, but it's still going to take some time before, you know, maybe we do have a fleet, or MotoGP has a fleet of electric trucks that's taking freight at airports or whatever kind of gesture you can make, really. But
I think that the big gesture at the minute is the freight, because we reduced the amount of aeroplanes they use for the freight with the new system. So that's a big step already. And I think, regarding going forward, there's a lot of work to be done, but it's a long process. I don't think it's going to happen overnight.
I mean, you guys have been moving and working and travelling for such a long time, but does it ever impress you sometimes when you see everything broken down? I mean, I'm always leaving here late on a Sunday night, and to see MotoGP essentially reduced to a game of Tetris, where everybody moving these blocks around to fit into the next stage of the travel is always impressive, always.
I mean, I'll be impressed if we get the freight at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And, I think even I'll say, well done, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, also another thing, of course, we always wanted to look better and better, but of course we also create problems, you know. For example, the carpets, you know, we bring carpets around because we need to look nice and tidy, but you can only use it once, and now we are thinking, how can we use carpet twice, you know, for the other overseas, but we normally send them by sea shipment, and use plastic is also not a real option. Just paint the floor is probably the best, but anyway, we are looking into it, but we also need to realize that we are not creating here the most healthiest environment on the planet anyway with racing these motorcycles, you know.
Yeah, noise, emissions, whatever else.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a good point actually, Wilco. I mean, Stan, you must also have to talk with a lot of suppliers, a lot of companies offering you different materials, even when it comes down to basic things like presentation and aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain companies which, if you look around, most people use, and you get to know them over the years, and things get, you know what I mean, your ideas get put across, or you see somebody else has an idea and you ring them and say, hey, we need that for next year or whatever. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have got to say other teams have good ideas, and maybe somebody sees something that we do and think, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. So if everybody kind of uses 2 or 3 different companies, it's easier to get those ideas across, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you have a common standard as well, I guess, you know, so you know if something's quality for someone, it's going to be quality for you as well. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like.
So it's not just devices and other little innovative things on the bikes, Wilco. There's quite a bit of
there's a lot
uniformity in the
There's a lot going on. This is true. So, but anyway, as I said, we are racing bikes, and if you see the faces from the riders when they finished a MotoGP race, you know, for example, they're completely black from the carbon, you know what I mean? So this is not really healthy either, you know? So it's always a bit like, where are we going to, with how many people, and what are we doing there? So anyway, this whole scene is not fantastic for that.
Well, it's not as easy as it seems, and it's amazing what the team does behind the scenes. So Stan and Wilco, thanks ever so much for your time. This has been another RNF Unlocked podcast. We've got more episodes coming up in the next couple of rounds. So to be sure to comment on what you hear about. Until then, arigato for listening, and good luck to the team.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.